Hello guys. I'm back, and this time, we got to talk about the Necromancer. I've been playing it the entire week. I did quite a lot of PvP on it, and I've noticed some huge issues with the class. Huge issues with the core design of the class, and some bugs with the abilities. So I thought we should just talk about that because I was really looking forward to playing the class. And after playing it for a couple of days, I realized that it doesn't feel as strong as I thought it would feel. It it's missing a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that would be nice in the class and does look good actually doesn't really function well. So let's just go over this real quick. We look at like the main DPS kit of of a necro. Uh, we usually have the blast bones, we have the skull, and the scythe. This is kind of like the iconic DPS kit that the necro gets. We of course have like the boneyard, which is AoE and stuff. We'll talk about that as well, but I think this is like it's kind of like the sword kit that's always same with most of the builds, where you have the curse, you have the endless fury, and you have the fragments. So this is kind of like the standard DPS kit that the necro gets, and like every skill has major issues with this. Let's start with the blast bones. The blast bones, I mean, they take 2.5 seconds to summon, and then they start moving. So before you even get any movement out of your summon, it takes 2.5 seconds, which is really long in PvP. And then, well, it takes however long it takes to reach the target. And sometimes, the blast bones don't reach their target at all. They just stand there, they look confused, and they don't know where to go. Sometimes they just bug out and they run back and forth, and they never reach their target. And so this is a really, really unreliable skill. You never know when it's gonna hit, and you never know if it's gonna hit. So this really needs to be changed. Um, it is it can do a lot of damage when it hits, but man, getting the blast bone to hit is really hard, and it's really hard to time a burst combo with the blast bones because it's so unpredictable. Sometimes they're just really fast and they just go right for it and they hit the target sooner as you thought they would. And sometimes they just take their time and they stop in the middle of chasing someone and don't move at all. And so you never know when the burst is gonna happen, if it's gonna happen. So this really fucks up your DPS rotations, your combos, and there's obviously right now a bug where like all the other morphs, like the base ability and the stamina morph, do less damage. I thought that's what it is. The Stalking Blast Bones, the Magic Morph, doesn't seem to have this issue, but it still feels pretty unreliable. Even if I hit the target, I hit like anywhere between 5 and 11k. I've seen harder hitting blast bones from other players. My blast bones seem to have like a cap at like 11k or something. And yeah, so if they don't crit, it's like 5k. If they crit, it's like 11k. Um, yeah, that's a big difference, and so that just plays into the really unreliable nature of this skill. So yeah, I really think the bug needs to be fixed, and they have to adjust something about the blast bones. Maybe have it like 1 second, 1.5 second cast time, and then a little faster movement speed. You know, one thing that I want to see is like I want to do more with my summons. Don't make him fire and forget. Make me summon my blast bone and have my blast bone just stay with me for like 30 seconds. And when I need it, I just aim at someone and I click it again and then it runs off. That's how I would like the blast mode to be. You know, you just summon them and they just stay by your side, but they are completely passive until you tell them to hit the target, and then they run off, because then you can just cast them preemptively and have them ready whenever you need them. Let's move on to the next skill. The next skill is the skull. We have the flame skull, ricochet skull. What's the other morph called? I think venom skull. Yeah. Um, this is also kind of a weird skill. Um, they're kind of like the warden birds, the cutting dive. Uh, Damage is okay. I hit somewhere between like 3k and like 7k with them, so they can hit decently hard on a squishy player. But honestly, uh, this is also a really bad skill because it is so slow. The projectile is unbelievably slow, and I mean you have a lot of range on this, 38 meters. So if you're near a keep, you get, I don't know how many, 42 or something. So you have like a lot of range with this skill. So if you cast it at maximum range, it takes forever to reach your target. And it is very telegraphed. They can see it easily. They have a lot of time to dodge, block, shield, heal, um, take a shit, make a cup of coffee, go on a 2 weeks vacation, come back, and the projectile still wouldn't have hit them. It's just, it takes way too long. It's way too easy to avoid the damage of this skill. And this, again, super unreliable. I don't know what to say. I wish it would function better. I also don't like the spam design of this skill. Every third cast deals 20% more damage and bounces off 2 times. That actually almost never happens because usually I don't spam it like 3 times in a row. And if I do, then for some reason it doesn't really bounce off of to other players. Maybe because like they have to be really close and sometimes they are not, so I don't get the extra bounces. So yeah, it's just really unreliable. It's really slow. People dodge it all the time, and yeah, it's just, it doesn't function well. It needs to be redesigned. It needs to be faster. Maybe have like an AoE morph that instead of just hitting like 2 other targets on the third cast, just have it like the reflective light from the Templar, where you just shoot 3 skulls and they spread out and hit 3 targets. I would really prefer that, because then you could just use it on a group and just do some damage to multiple players at the same time. So yeah, this needs to be reworked as well. So yeah, I don't know what to say. Let's move on to the next skill. Hungry Scythe. Uh, this is, I mean, this skill feels nice to use. It's like Brawler, but faster, snappier, way more responsive. It feels smooth, but it doesn't deal a whole lot of damage. The tooltip is kind of low, and you never get it like up real high. I looked at some builds on the build editor and I tried to get the damage up, and honestly, I could only get it up to like 10k tooltip, which is still not a whole lot. And the amount of damage I had to invest in a build like that just to get it to a 10k tooltip, it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest. And the main issue with this skill that I have is the range. It has a 7 meter radius, and that's not enough. I miss all the time. My scythe almost never hits someone, especially if you have someone who's faster than you. They just have to be like half a step far away, too far away, and you don't hit them anymore. And it's just, it's also a pretty expensive skill. It's not like super expensive, but like 3k. I'm in heavy armor on this build, so the costs are a little bit higher. For what it does, it is a little bit too expensive, and yeah, it's just, like I said, like the Necro just has really unreliable damage sources. Blast Bones almost never really hit in the time frame that you set for yourself. You never know when it's gonna happen, if it's gonna happen. The skulls can just be dodged so easily. The Hungry Scythe is has such a short range that you just constantly miss, and it's I don't know. I've noticed many times when I fought players, I can drop them to a couple percent health, and then they start panic rolling and healing and running, and I can't hit them anymore. My blast bones takes way too long to get ready and actually engage the target. My skulls, they just miss because my target is rolling all the time, and my scythe also misses because I can't get close to my target because they're running. So that's really an issue. Like all my main damage skills, they just keep missing. So I had like at least like 20 fights yesterday where I dropped someone to 5% health and they recover from it because I cannot hit them anymore. I cannot finish them off because all my skills just miss. None of my skills hits them anymore. So that's really a huge issue. And let's talk about Boneyard. Boneyard is actually one of the better skills. Um, it's a ground AoE. It's not really big, but I mean it's a decent circle. It does a decent amount of damage. It has some nice effects like the extra uh like penetration that it gives, like the reducing the resistances. It's really nice. You get 20% more damage out of it if you cast it on a corpse. So it has quite a lot of utility, and I like using it. But it is also a little bit clunky. I notice sometimes I just can't cast it really well. I don't know what it is. Um, I have the auto cast ground abilities on, so I should just have to click the button once and it should cast. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes the circle just gets stuck and it doesn't cast it properly, and man, this just plays into the unreliable nature of this class again, because this is basically the only skill that I have left that could actually hit someone who's running away from me when all my other skills are just missing. They're just running away, and I try to cast it in front of them so they run into the boneyard and take some more damage. But man, sometimes it just doesn't work. It's really an issue. And yeah, like I said, the damage is pretty nice and it's a good skill, mm, but I think this doesn't really have anything to do with the class itself. It's just probably just a little bit buggy on like ground abilities. I think like all the ground abilities can have these issues. So yeah. Um the Glacial Colossus is actually a lot of fun to use. It's a strong skill, but the same issue with the Boneyard here. Uh, you sometimes I just can't cast it. I had it multiple times where I wanted to cast it and it showed the circle and it didn't cast my Colossus. And I did it like 5 times and it just every time it shows the yellow circle and it doesn't place the ultimate. I don't know why that is. But it cost me a lot of fights where I just couldn't pull off the combo that I was going for, and I just died because I was just too distracted trying to cast my ultimate, and it just wouldn't work. So that is indeed an issue. Yeah. But like I said, it's probably just an issue with ground abilities in general, not really with this ability. So, but I would like to see that getting fixed. I want to just be able to reliably place my ground fields and not get stuck in like a weird circle animation. That's not cool. Um, this are this is basically like the main issues I have with the class. There are more issues. I don't do the corpse gameplay on this build. I will do other builds where look into the corpse gameplay a little more. But I know that the corpse gameplay is really buggy right now. My good friend Jack Daniel ESO, aka Christopher ESO, he was playing his Necro the other day, and he had massive issues casting the siphons on his corpses. Um, they would just either not cast at all, or they would cast and then just immediately disappear. And yeah, that's really an issue. This needs to work reliably because I know how it feels, you know? If your class is meant to use something and it cannot use this, you just die in a fight. You just die in a fight because you're just trying to cast a skill and you'll never get it off. This just ruins PvP for a lot of people. And it's super frustrating when other people can't hit you and everything works and you just stand there and you just can't cast for some reason. So please, Cinemax, fix that, make it more reliable. If there's a corpse, it needs to happen. I need to be able to cast a tether on my corpse. Um, please take a look at that. Um, but the corpse gameplay also reveals like another weakness of the class, and that's like the class doesn't have any mobility skills. There's no speed buff. There's no gap closer. There's um, nothing really that plays into mobility. Like we have a purge, so we can purge off snares and roots, which is nice. But that's about it, and that doesn't really do anything for mobility itself. So yeah, the corpse gameplay kind of forces you into staying where you are, being more stationary, which is oftentimes not really viable in PvP unless you're a tank. But um, you know, I never play a tank. I don't enjoy the tank playstyle, and it is really hard to utilize a stationary corpse well on a build that's meant to move and that has to move. Because you know when you have 20 people following you, you can't just stay there by your corpse and cast a tether on it, and yeah, that just doesn't work. You got to be able to move. So maybe we should adjust the corpse gameplay and give, I don't know, maybe some passive bonuses for having a corpse. Maybe consuming a corpse or having created a corpse gives you extra damage or extra regen or something like that. So things that you just get when you play your class and you don't have to like actively tether a corpse and stay there. That would be nice. So a little more dynamic gameplay would be nice with the corpses. And like I said, you know, we don't have any movement on this class, any movement abilities, which I think it kind of hurts the class. I mean, I get the base, the core design of the class. I get what they're going for, but that doesn't mean it's good and it should stay like this. I think we need some improvements to the class. I also think the class should get a weapon and spell damage buff because I mean that's such a basic buff, and I get it. I get it. This is a debuff based class. It's fine, you know, it's fine. But I mean, at least a basic buff like a weapon and spell damage buff should be included in the class. It is, you know, it is easier for like a stamina build to get the buffs they're looking for because you have the dual wield that offers the buff, you have the 2H that offers the buff. Um, so that's something that's a little better than on the Magicka side. Usually Magicka is better than stamina, but in this case I would say stamina builds have more options for like playing builds that have these buffs. On the Magicka side, you're kind of forced into like three things in my opinion. One is, of course, Rattle Cage. It's what I'm using. Just makes sense. Um, the other one is Entropy for the spell damage buff, which would also be okay, but that's another skill you have to put on your bar, and I couldn't fit it in right now because I need all these skills. If I take any of these skills off my bar, I'm getting into issues because, you know, the class itself is already pretty, well, unreliable and hard to play. And if I take away any of these skills, it just gets worse. So where do I put this? Where do I put this? Which skill do I give up for it? That's the question. Or the third option is I'm going for a spell damage pot, which I personally don't like. I don't like buff pots. I'm using my pots for sustain and for critical healing. If I get ganked and I need the healing, I need to be able to pop a pot and get the healing. Or when I get low resources, I need my resources back, like all of them. So I'm really not a fan of buff pots, but I mean that's like all that's left that I could do if I give up my rattle cage. Either have to run entropy or a spell damage pot. So yeah, that's not very nice. Just makes for a weird play style. It just really pigeonholes you into certain things. You either go, like I said, for rattle cage, which is a good option, but it's heavy. So if you don't want to play a heavy build, you gotta get the weapons and the jewelry, and they're a little harder to get. And you gotta farm really long to get them, which is, well, it's not really fun to do that. And you can't really try other builds because then you need the buffs again. So I don't know what to do here. The whole class just seems, I don't know. They had good ideas, but it kind of feels rushed. It feels rushed. Um, Another issue I want to discuss is the lack of stuns. We basically have like two stuns in this game, in this class. One would be like the Ruinous Scythe. You can set people off balance um, on every third cast. But here's the issue: it's really hard to hit people, and it's only for stamina builds. So, what's my Magicka Necro gonna do? What is my Magicka Necro gonna do? Am I am I forced to use Bone Totem, which is a fear, and it takes 2 seconds to arm? 2 seconds in PvP, that just doesn't work. You can do this in like group PvP or when you see a couple people fighting and you put the bone totem in there. That's okay, but if I get attacked by someone and I take a massive amount of damage, I need to be able to CC them right away so I get a little time window where I can just recover. I don't have 2 seconds. I can't just cast something and then wait 2 seconds for the actual effect to happen. That's too long. So what other options do I have? Well, most people just go for a destruction staff and use the destructive reach, which is a good option. But again, it just pigeonholes you into a certain playstyle. And on this build, I don't want that. I'm going for a 2H because I just like the 2H playstyle. It gives me a gap closer, which we discussed is something that the class is missing. So I just supplemented that. And so I can't really use that. I could, on the back bar, I'm using a Resto staff, so I could technically use a Destro staff and go for the destructive reach. But then again, I have to give up one of my skills, and like I mentioned, I need them all. I need them all. So I can't really slot a new skill. And I don't want to be pigeonholed and forced to use a staff just to get a CC. Every class should have like a viable CC option, like an instant CC. That just should be included in a class. And it shouldn't be like behind a 2 second cast time or behind like a spam mechanic that says, yeah, every third cast if you hit someone, then you might get the effect that you want. I can't do that. Okay, if I get attacked by someone, if someone's chasing me and I need some breathing room to recover, I need to be able to CC them right away. I can't wait like fucking 20 minutes until some effect happens. So yeah, this would be an option, and a lot of people are going for this, especially because, of course, the destruction staff skill line offers more. You have the AOE, you have like an instant cast spammable, um, which is nice, and I would like to use that because it would help the build. But the whole point of my build is I wanted to go for more of a pure necromancer playstyle, just capture the essence of the class. But I realized that the essence of the class is actually not very good, and it just has a lot of issues. So yeah, the pure necro playstyle really lackluster, I gotta say. Um, you kinda have to supplement this class with a weapon skill line or any other skill line to get things that you want. So okay, this is one option for a CC. Another option would be, of course, Vampire. Go for the Drain Essence. I tried this. It's not great. It doesn't feel good. Um, Mostly due to the short range of it, only 12 meters. Uh, it's just not enough. It's not enough. And you have to cancel it because you don't really want to siphon someone. You just want to just hit him real quick, so you have to cancel this, which to me always feels weird, because sometimes you just can't tell, because if you cancel the drain animation, sometimes you don't see the CC on your target. It sometimes takes like 2 seconds for the actual CC animation to happen, and that's just, I don't know. I gotta know when I actually have CC'd someone, because you know, then I can act accordingly. But if I don't see it for 2 seconds and my opponent doesn't see it for 2 seconds, then that's just shitty on both sides. That's not fun. So yeah, what other options do I have? Should I use like Silver Leash? That's not a good option on a Magicka build. Should I use Fire Rune? That also takes 2 seconds to arm, and it's not a good option. Um, should I use Time Stop? Also takes 2 seconds to arm. Um, yeah, so everything just takes 2 seconds to arm. So what are my options here, Zenimax? It's just I'm not happy with this, honestly. Um, but I have a solution. I wanna propose something. Look at this skill. The Skeletal Arcanist. You cast it and just stays with you for 16 seconds and just attacks people for like a little shock damage. And what I would like this skill to be is, first of all, more more duration. Make it 30 seconds, and just have like the Arcanist attack them just like normal when I cast it. But when I recast this skill, I want this Arcanist to shoot a shock clench at someone. Okay? So I would I would cast this. The guy appears, he runs around with me, and he attacks people with his shock light attacks. And when I click it again, instead of resummoning it, this guy would shoot the guy I'm looking at with a shock clench. You know? This thing here. The shock clench. Because this way I would have a single target CC. That's instant. So you don't have to add a new skill or change anything crazy. Just give this guy the option to shoot a shock clench when I reactivate the skill. Okay? So there's your stun. Easy. Just put it in. It's such a simple solution. And it makes sense because he's already spamming the shock staff, so why wouldn't he have a shock clench to go with it? Just do it. Okay? So these are my main issues with the class. Let me just recap this real quick. So we so we understand what we're talking about. Blast Bones takes too long to summon, takes too long to reach the target, really unreliable, sometimes doesn't move at all, sometimes just stays still and desummons, basically wasting your magicka, wasting your burst potential. Needs to be fixed. The skulls, way too slow, way too slow. They need to be way faster, and they should have different effects. Don't make it like some effect that happens when you spam it. That's just not what we need in PvP. We don't need skills to be spammed. Make him good when you use them once. Like I said, make this like a triple skull that splits out and just hits multiple targets, like the reflective light from the Templar skill line. That would help, but yeah, just make it faster, make it more reliable, um, so I can actually hit someone who's rolling. The Scythe, maybe give it a little more range, or I don't actually know how to fix this skill, because you don't want the skill to be like too OP, but I think 7 meters range, maybe a couple meters more, maybe make it 10 or something, and maybe we need some other effects on it. It's really hard to land sometimes if you have someone who's rolling and running. So yeah, this needs to be adjusted. These two skills are pretty fine, but the application of them needs to be a little smoother. I don't want to get stuck in my casting animation anymore. So please fix this, Animax. Like I said, the Skeletal Arcanist, give it a shock clench. Give it a single target stun when I reactivate this, so I can actually just have a stun without slotting a different skill. This would just make it so much better and just make the class more viable to use. And yeah, I would like to see some buffs in the passives, or active buffs. Give me, please, like some form of movement, maybe minor expedition or something. I would like some minor expedition. I understand major expedition might not be in the cards, but maybe we can get some minor, would be nice. Um, then I would like a gap closer, a Magicka gap closer would be really nice, because you need a gap closer in PvP. You need a gap closer. Um, if you're not playing like a speedy build, then you really have to rely on a gap closer, or you just go full ranged gameplay with a staff. But like I said, I don't want to supplement the class all the time. I don't want to be forced into using other skill lines to give the class something that it just lacks. Make the class more complete. Make it feel like it's a well thought out, complete class, because right now it doesn't feel like it. Right now it just feels like something rushed. The ideas are nice, but they're not implemented well, and they don't make a whole lot of sense in PvP. This tells me that ZeniMax hasn't tested this class in PvP. They don't understand what's needed in PvP, because some of the core mechanics that every PvPer, especially 1vx PvPer, relies on just completely are missing from the class. So we need these buffs and we need those skills, ZeniMax. Put them in. Speed buff would be nice. Gap closer would be nice. A stun would be nice. So any of this. And like I said, I want to see a major spell and weapon damage buff, please. So I don't have to be like using Rattle Cage or a Pod or Entropy when I'm playing a Magicka build. And when I'm playing like a sword and board stamina build, I also don't have access to the weapon damage buff unless I use like dual wield or 2H on the back bar. And it's just not, I don't want to be, again, I'm sounding like a broken record here, but I don't want to be forced to use a certain skill line just to give me one buff. that I'm missing from the class that should have been in there from the beginning. So yeah, that's about it for now. I just wanted to talk about these issues so you guys know and can make the decision if you want to play the class or not. Right now, I would not really recommend investing money in it because honestly, it doesn't feel that great all by itself. It can be good if you supplement the class with certain skill lines and give it what it lacks. You know, like I said, Destro Staff is nice. It gives a lot of stuff that's missing. Um, Mage's Guild can give stuff that's missing. Psijic can give stuff that's missing, like the buff, the speed buff. So you can supplement this class with certain skill lines and make it more complete. But honestly, we paid $40, $40 for this class. It should be more complete. Don't give me a half-ass class that's missing core buffs, core passives. Make it more complete, okay? Because right now you're really forced into using certain setups, and that hurts build diversity. And a lack of build diversity is really the last thing we need in this game. I'm a build crafter, I love build crafting, and I don't want to be forced into using the same stuff over and over again. So please, ZeniMax, think it through, make some changes, and then this class is gonna be as awesome as it should be. Okay? That's it for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I could give you some insight into the class. And yeah, just let me know what you think. Do you have other opinions on the class? Do you see it the same way I see it? What are your ideas for changing up some skills? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe and also make sure you go over to my Twitch channel and follow me because I want to see you in my live streams. I want to talk to you. And yeah, I will see you there. Have a good one. Bye.